Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, thank you for tuning in, and to my returning subscribers, thank you for your love and support on my channel. In today's video, I'll be showing you how I made this beautiful blouse with collar. I know this is something you'd like to know more about. Please keep on watching and let's get started. If you are yet to subscribe to my channel, please hit the subscribe button and turn on your notification bell so you'll get notified anytime I upload a new video. For this style, you can decide to mix the fabric, or you can use a single fabric like the one we have on the thumbnail. That is, you can use a single color fabric, and you can also decide to mix it like I did with mine. Now let's jump right into the cutting and the stitching of this blouse. I have this plain cotton fabric. It is about 1.5 yards, and my lining is also 1.5 yards. The other fabric I used is half a yard. I didn't include it here. I am starting with a back pattern. I have the shoulder line, the chest line, the waistline, and the full length of the top. Shoulder to the chest line is 8.5 inches, to the waistline is 16 inches, and to the full length of the top is at 22 inches. I have a space of 1.5 inches for zip allowance by the side of the paper. I am still going to take out the zip allowance later in the course of this video because this top does not have a zip at the back. Now the next thing I'm going to do is to mark the shoulder measurements divided by 2 plus 0.5 inch for seam allowance. I'll mark it on the shoulder line and also on the chest line, and I'll connect with a straight line. Next, I'll go in with the neckline width and the neckline depth. I'll use a neck width of 3.5 inches and a neck depth of 1.5 inches, and I'll connect with a curve. I'll come down by 1 inch for the shoulder slant, and I'll connect it into the neck width. From the shoulder slant, I'll divide what I have left into 2 and get the midpoint. At the midpoint, I'll go in by 0.5 inch and I'll put a mark there. Next, I'll mark the bust measurements divided by 4, and I'll connect those 3 points together to form the armhole. Next, I'll go in with the bust span measurement, that is the nipple to nipple measurement. I'll mark it on the chest line, the waistline, and at the full length. From the chest line, I'll come down by 1 inch. That is where I'll place the nipple to nipple measurement, and I'll connect the 3 points together with a straight line. On the waistline, I'll mark half inch on both sides of the dart leg, and I'll connect with a straight line to the top and bottom like so. I'll be using a armhole princess dart for this top, so from the shoulder slant there, I'll come down by 4 inches. That is where I'm going to place my curve to mark the armhole princess line. I am just going to place my curve on the 4 inches mark and make sure it is touching the dart line and connect like so. The next thing I'm going to do now is to mark the waist measurements divided by 4, and I'm going to replace the 1 inch we took at the waistline for darts. At the full length of the top, I am going to mark the hip measurements divided by 4, and I'll connect the 3 points together with my curve. That is all on the back pattern. I'll cut it out now. For the front pattern, the first thing you are going to do is to leave a space of 5 inches at the top of the paper and 4 inches by the side of the paper before your starting line. I have the shoulder line, the chest line, the bust line, the underbust line, the waistline, and the full length of the top. Shoulder to the chest line is 8.5 inches, to the bust line is 11 inches, To the underbust line is 14 inches, to the waistline is 18 inches, and to the full length of the top is 24 inches. There is a difference of 2 inches in the front pattern and the back pattern. That is what I'll be taking in as the bust darts in the front pattern. I'll go in with the shoulder measurements divided by 2 plus 0.5 inch for seam allowance. I'll mark it on the shoulder line and also on the chest line, and I'll connect with a straight line. Next, I'll go in with the neckline width and the neckline depth. I'll use a neck width of 3.5 inches and a neck depth of 3 inches, and I'll connect with a curve. I'll come down by 1.5 inches for the shoulder slant, and I'll connect it into the neck width. On the chest line, I'll go up by 3 inches and make a mark there. At the 3 inches mark, I'll go in by 0.75. The next thing I'm going to do now is to mark the bust measurements divided by 4, and I'll connect those 3 points together to form the armhole. On the bust line, I'll go ahead and mark the nipple to nipple measurements divided by 2. Also on the waistline, I'm going to mark it, and at the full length line, I'm also going to mark it there, and I'll connect with a straight line. At the waistline, I'll come out by 0.75 on both sides of the dart leg, and I'll connect to the bust point like so, and I am also going to connect to the full length line like so. Next, I'll mark the waist measurements divided by 4, and I'll replace the 1.5 inches we took in as darts. At the full length line, I'll go ahead and mark the hip measurements divided by 4, and I'll connect all the 3 points together with my curve. The next thing is to determine the overlap at the front of the top. Now, from the dart line to the end of the center front line, you are going to measure what you have there, and whatever you have there after measuring it, you are going to replace it outside the center front line. On the waistline, you are also going to extend that measurement and connect with a straight line like so. The waistline will serve as the break point. Now, from the neck width at the shoulder line, you are going to connect with a straight line to meet the break point. The next thing is to bring in the back pattern, and we are going to measure around the neckline of the back pattern. But first, fold your zip allowance away from the neck width and measure what you have there. Whatever you measured is what you are going to use to extend the pattern from the front to the back. Now, I'm just going to use that measurement to extend it in a slant form like so. And I'm just going in with my ruler to straighten it out. From the new extension, I'm just going to come out by 0.25. This is to make the collar sit well on the neckline. Now, the next thing is to mark the collar width. I'm marking 3 inches for the collar width, and I'm going to use my tape to mark it diagonally like you see me doing. If you want your collar width to be bigger than what you see in my video, you can make it 4 inches or 5 inches, depending on how wide you want your collar to be. Now come down to the old neck width and mark the 3 inches, and you're going to place your curve the way you see me placing mine, and you're going to mark from the top to connect to the break points. What you need to do is to make sure that the curvy part of the curve is facing the down part. Make sure that the curvy part is facing the down part so that you can achieve that curve towards the end of the collar. I used the armhole princess darts for the back pattern, and that is what I am also going to use for the front pattern. So from the shoulder slant, mark the 4 inches and place your curve on that 4 inches mark and make sure it is touching the bust points and connect with the curve. I am marking 1 inch here to tighten the armhole, so I'm going to place my curve again and connect from that 1 inch to the bust points. Now the 1 inch we took out, now we have to replace it back. So I'm just marking it up there and I'm going to connect the armhole back with my curve. The last thing I'm going to do now is to mark the bust dart. From the bust line, come down by 2 inches and connect to the bust point. 2 inches is the difference between the front half length and the back half length of the measurement I am working with. I have transferred my front patterns to fabric and I added the necessary allowance I need to add to the pattern. I added 1.5 inches to the side joining, while to the part I'll be joining to complete the front pieces, I added ½ inch. I have also cut out my lining piece. I am going to set the side front aside so that I can work on the center front. For this center piece, I only cut one piece for now because I am still going to alter the pattern to cut out the second piece for the front. But for this one I cut out, I added ½ inch allowance to the top, bottom and the sides of the pattern. I am going to set this aside now so that I can alter the pattern. For one side of the collar, we can see that it is on the neckline. It does not overlap into the other side of the collar. That is what I am trying to achieve here. Now, from the old neckline I have on the pattern, I am going to trace it out with my marker and connect from the top of the collar into the center front line. At this point, if you don't want to show any cleavage, you can extend from the center front line by 1 inch or 2 inches. But for me, I am just going to cut from the center front line into the collar like so. But if you don't want to show any cleavage at all, you can extend from the center front line by 1 or 2 inches. I'll go ahead now and transfer this pattern into fabric and I'll bring it back and show you. I have transferred to fabric here and this is what we have. I added ½ inch allowance to the top, bottom and the sides of the pattern. I have also cut out my lining, but the lining I cut out here is not what I want to use. I am going to use the other fabric you saw in the video for the lining. So now I'll go ahead and cut out my lining and I'll iron interfacing on the lining. On the front lining, I am going to add interfacing to it. I'll go ahead and do that now and I'll bring it back and show you. Now I have my lining here for the center front and I've added interfacing to it. For the side front also, I have added interfacing to the lining. This is one piece of the center front and one piece of the side front. So I'm just going to go ahead and stitch the main fabric together. One center front of the main fabric and one side front of the main fabric. I'll go ahead and join it together and I'm going to do the same thing to the lining piece. I am joining fabric to fabric and lining to lining. This is what I am doing here and that is one side of the center front. This is another side of the center front. I have my lining and the main fabric together. So I'm going to go ahead and join main fabric to main fabric, right side facing each other. I am going to pin it down and go ahead and join with ½ inch seam allowance. I am going to do the same thing to the lining piece. Right side facing each other, I'll stitch with ½ inch seam allowance. I am done joining the front pieces here and this is what we have. Go ahead and iron the seams flat. I have done that to mine. This is the lining piece and I have the main fabric here also. I have joined it together and I also ironed the seams flat. It is important to iron every joining you have on this top so that all the part relaxes on the body. Now I am going to take it fabric to fabric and go ahead and join at the top with ½ inch seam allowance. I'll do the same thing to the lining piece also. This is for the back pattern, and I have also transferred to fabric. I added 1.5 inches to the side joining, half inch to the top and bottom of the pattern, and half inch to the side that will be joined to the center back. I am going to set it aside now so that we can take out the zip allowance on the center back, because this top does not need a zip at the back. Now I am going to trim 1 inch away from the 1.5 inches I have as the zip allowance, so that I can use the half inch to join the center back together. I'll separate the pattern from the fabric now and go ahead and stitch the center back with half inch seam allowance. I'm going to do that to the main fabric, and I also have my lining piece here. I'm going to do the same thing to the lining also. I'm just going to join the center back with half inch all the way from the top to the bottom. This is after joining the center back, and this is what we have. I'll take the main fabric of the side back now and pin it to the center back and go ahead and stitch with half inch seam allowance. I am going to do the same thing to the lining also. I am done joining here, and now we have a single piece for the back. So now I have done the same thing to my lining piece also, and this is what we have. I am going to set it aside now and bring in the front piece. This is the main fabric of the front. You can see that I joined the collar together, and this is what we have. So now I'll take the main fabric of the back piece and I'm going to pin it together, the center back facing the joining I have on the front. I'm going to make sure that the joining matches up on both sides and pin it down like so. And now you're just going to take the shoulder and match it up with the front shoulder, the front and the back shoulder, match it up and pin it down. I'll take it to the sewing machine and go ahead and stitch round with half inch. I am going to repeat the same process for the lining. So go ahead and pin it down and stitch with half inch seam allowance. This is my lining for both the front and the back, and like I explained earlier, I'll pin the collar joining to the center back and match the shoulders together and pin it down also, and go ahead and stitch with half inch seam allowance. After stitching, you are going to notch close to the seam. It is important to notch so that it relaxes on the body. Notching helps the neckline to relax as well, so when you notch, by the time you iron, it will relax well. If you don't notch, it won't really come out well. Place your lining on the main fabric and you are going to pin it down in front from one end to the other end, and you are going to secure it down with a pin and go ahead and stitch with half inch. So from one end at the front there to the other side, go ahead and stitch. While pinning, please make sure that at every point you have a joining on the fabric, make sure it matches the one on the lining also. Match all the joinings together, it is very important. I'll go over to the sewing machine now and join it together, and I'll bring it back and show you. I am done stitching here, and this is what we have. I have pressed the seams flat and go ahead and press after stitching. The next thing is to stitch round the armhole. I'm going to turn it to the wrong side so that I can join the armhole. This top does not have a sleeve, so I need to use the lining to turn the armhole inside. So now just match it up together. Every joining you have on the main fabric, make sure it matches that of the lining piece and pin it down. I'll go over to the sewing machine and stitch the armhole on both sides, and I'll bring it back. I'm done stitching the armhole, and this is what I have. So go ahead and press after stitching. I am emphasizing on pressing after stitching because it makes the work easier, especially when you are working with so many joinings on the fabric. It is better to iron every step. The next thing is to join the hem of the back. So turn it to the wrong side and match the main fabric together with the lining, and I'll go ahead and stitch with 1/2 inch. I am done stitching the hem of the back now, and this is what I have. The last thing for me to do is to join the sides of the top together. I'll go ahead and use my allowance to join it together, and I'll bring it back. After joining, I finished the inside with the overlocker. So this is what we have now. I'll put it on the mannequin so that we can see the finished look of the top. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please hit the like button, leave a comment, and subscribe to my channel. Please turn on your notification bell so you'll get notified anytime I upload a new video. I'll see you in my next one. Bye.